My name is Sonja Sapach, and I'm a second-year PhD student in Sociology and Humanities Computing here at the University of Alberta. I've been working in collaboration with Jeffrey Rockwell and Catherine Middleton on a task that was laid out during the 2014 Digital Infrastructure Leadership Council Summit, which asked us, the RDC Metrics Group, to report on ways of evaluating research data management plans in order to encourage a culture of digital scholarly stewardship. My role in the project has involved three responsibilities. The first was the development of a summary report that examined the use of data management plans, from this point on I will refer to as DMPs, by various funding agencies including Genome Canada, the National Science Foundation in the US, and the Arts and Humanities Research Council in the UK. The goal of the summary was to determine the various standards and techniques being used in the implementation of DMPs, as well as what sort of costs and benefits were tied to each program. My second responsibility has involved co-authoring a recommendation report aimed at social science and humanities research funding agencies. This report, which is in its second stage of edits, presents a case in favor of a move towards requiring DMPs as part of the application processes in cases where research data will be gathered, generated, or curated. Referencing research done by organizations like the Canadian Association of Research Libraries and JISC, and responding to national and international charters and declarations like the G8 Open Data Charter, this recommendation outlines a set of values and principles, lists anticipated benefits and challenges, and outlines a set of implementation steps and proposes a model for the use of DMPs. My third responsibility, and the reason that I'm talking to you today, is to work more specifically on developing a culture of digital scholarly stewardship, presenting an argument from the perspective of a researcher to other researchers. We argue in the above-mentioned recommendation that in order to be transformative, the introduction of DMPs and the encouragement of data stewardship in general needs to be a process that includes consultation with the research community in order to understand the values and principles that are considered to be important. It is my goal here to get you thinking and talking about how we currently deal with our research data. So the question that I want us to think about is how can we convince the research community across Canada to not only care about, but to alter their daily practices in relation to the sharing, preservation, and use of the big data that we as a social sciences and humanities community are collectively producing, but not necessarily archiving when we conduct research. To answer this question, it is important to clearly outline the problem as we see it. In order to demonstrate, I would like to use my own SSHRC-funded master's thesis as an example. I conducted a virtual ethnography that involved well over 400 hours of fieldwork and observations, as well as 10 semi-structured interviews. I used video and screen capture technology to document my observations, which I then coded, classified, and analyzed. As is the norm, I summarized my findings in my thesis, drawing attention to specific observations and interview answers that I found to be relevant to my research question. I now have a file folder sitting on my hard drive with the complete data set and fully transcribed interviews that I may or may not return to in the future. It is this data that is hidden away and fundamentally unusable by other researchers that we're concerned with. Should my data, once analyzed, remain hidden and inaccessible now that I'm done with it? Is it really fair to call it my data? After all, it was a SSHRC-funded project. Yes, it is my research. I did the work of gathering the information specific to the research question that I was asking, and I have the right to analyze it and gain credit for my findings. If I decide to attempt to publish in a journal article or a book chapter based on my research, I will be rewarded with new additions to my CV. We are encouraged, through incentives like promotion and tenure, to disseminate our findings, to publish our research. But why do we not treat the data itself in a similar way? What if I could take my data set, clean it up for the purposes of ethics, present it in a standardized format with appropriate metadata, and publish it in a publicly accessible archive? Let us suspend disbelief for a moment and imagine that all of the systems and infrastructure that are required for the sharing of research data are in place. Imagine that I publish my data to a publicly accessible archive following a process of peer review that ensures quality and standards compliance. Not only have I been given credit for the publication of my data, but I have contributed to a stronger research community. The unnecessary duplication of data collection can be avoided if other researchers are able to find the types of data that they're looking for from within this archive. Granted, researchers will want to ask their own questions and may require data that's been gathered in a different way. However, Through a process of due diligence, they have the ability to retrieve archive data that may have relevance to their project and adjust their own data gathering techniques appropriately, potentially leading to more refined findings. Allowing our disbelief to return, there are 3 significant challenges that need to be addressed in order to move forward: a lack of repository availability, a lack of metadata standards, and a lack of a culture of data stewardship. The first 2 need to be approached at an institutional and national level, but the third is something that we can begin to tackle now. Research shows that the benefits of digital data management include avoiding the duplication of research, providing new inspiration for research, enhanced collaboration, increased citation rates, improved replication and verification of research results, and the increased visibility and impact of research. Ultimately, we recommend scholars treat the creation of well-documented data archives as a form of scholarship that will not only promote more effective data management practices, but will also lead to academic recognition, increased citation, and have positive implications for promotion and tenure. If you take anything away from these 5 minutes, we hope it's the desire to discuss this idea with your colleagues. Conversation is central to the successful development of a culture of digital data stewardship.